Welcome to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast, where we provide constant improvement to businesses through timely, actionable financial solutions. Do you want answers to your financial questions? Email us at bsp@kaizencpas.com. I'm your host, Mark Valesky. Now let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Kaizen Time. I'm joined by Clay Hamlin, a partner here at the firm. Clay, how complex is your work on any given day?
Oh, it can get mighty complex sometimes, and I fight against that on a regular basis.
Before we even get into complexity, I want to ask, Are there certain days that you find to be more complex than others? Like, let's say Mondays, you're like, nope, this is not going to be a problem day. And then Tuesdays, there seems to be, for whatever reason, there's more complex tasks to do.
No, not in particular. If I had to pick a complex day, it would be Thursday. Thursday is our leadership team meeting, and we tend to address the more complex, more challenging topics that I'll face in a particular week.
Okay, so not that any given day is like an easy day or a hard day, but you come in and you're like, I know that I'm going to have to be really dialed in for that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So let's get into complexity with businesses, because we know complexity usually is I don't want to say a bad thing, but it slows things down, right?
I would put complexity more towards the bad end of things. If I operationally anyway, there's financial complexity, as you know, and there's operational complexity. Financial complexity is difficult to get away from and harder to manage because you have a lot of outside forces. Mm-hmm. Operational complexity is one in which you have more control over. And so a business owner should think about that, about how to minimize complexity. There are many, many benefits to minimizing complexity. But let's talk about like how you do it, and we'll talk about some of the benefits at the end. In terms of minimizing complexity, the biggest item is standardization. I don't think anything really touches that one. So standardization basically means every process that the business does, and I mean practically every process, it's documented, it's studied. You determine which is the best way of doing it. It's written somewhere that somebody can find it. It's searchable. It's clear, generally measurable.
I expected that.
Well, if you have a standard process, but it's not clear and measurable, I would question whether that's a standard. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily a standard that someone can follow anyway. So, but there's procedures, and procedures maybe are measurable, maybe are not. But that gets into a whole, like how to operate a business is checking on which standards or which processes you find most important, mm-hmm. and setting metrics on those, and then those become KPIs, which is a whole other conversation.
Real quick, I want to kind of jump on this. And the reason you want something like this is you say, hey, we have raw material, whatever it is, whether it's books, whether it's rocks, whatever. Yep. And we have a standardized process to convert that into this specific output. And that specific output is what the clients are asking for, right?
Yes.
That way you're not getting variance to your product. It is the same thing every time. So
the king of standardization is McDonald's. Right?
Oh, yes.
They've got like I don't even know, 1.5 foot thick standardization manual. And even though their food sucks, mm-hmm. people go to them because you know exactly what you're going to get. I shouldn't say it sucks. It's not bad, but it certainly isn't good for you food, and it certainly isn't gourmet food, mm-hmm. but you know exactly what you're going to get. Mm-hmm. And that is what most people, including myself, mm-hmm. I would prefer a lower quality but consistent than sometimes high quality, sometimes really poor.
I want to pause just for a second because I had a owner of a company that I knew, big company, millions of dollars every year. And he would travel to China to visit one of his plants there. And he always went to McDonald's there because he knew what he was getting.
Yes.
That is the difference. He could have gotten sushi. He could have gotten anything on the street. Right. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the time. It was about he wanted this output, and that was okay with him.
Correct. Yep. And that's what our clients want. I know that. Mm-hmm. And so inconsistencies in delivery, inconsistencies in what we do drive me nuts.
Yeah.
Because we have literally hundreds of processes and hundreds of standardizations, and when someone doesn't follow them, then I'm annoyed. Mm-hmm. Because they're not operating the way they're supposed to. They're supposed to operate according to the processes. And when they don't, oftentimes it's because they just never looked. Like they forgot. Sometimes they get lazy. Mm-hmm. It happens to me too. I can't say I'm perfect by any stretch. In fact, business owners are oftentimes the worst at following their own processes.
Yeah, they put it in place and then they're like, "This is for you to do. I'm gonna go do my own thing."
I wouldn't say I would look at it that way. The business owners tend to be like problem solvers, and so when you look at sort of like for example, we look at how people operate, and we'll have like assessments, personality assessments. We do like Kolbe and DISC and these kind of things. And when you look at someone who, like on their DISC assessment, who has a high risk, so it's like the third one's the DISC. When you look at how they come out on the chart, if they're willing to do things, willing to accept a lot of risk. Mm-hmm. Actually, confusing Kolbe and DISC. It's the Kolbe one, not the DISC. On the Kolbe one, if they're willing to accept a lot of risk, they oftentimes then aren't following process. They're generally, you don't have two persons who are the same person who's willing to accept a lot of risk and are willing to accept or follow the process rigorously. That's a rare person, and I'm not sure we have anyone in the firm out of 60 or something, that have both of those being high.
Well, and there's always that saying, like, with great risk comes reward, right? Yes.
So when you look at our employees, most of them are high fact-finding, high follow-through, high on process, lower on the risk.
Yep.
I'm a much higher on the risk and lower on the process and lower on the fact-finding than most of our employees. So typically, if I'm asked to do something, I will look at it and just say, what's the best way of doing this? And just go and do that. Mm-hmm. And then our COO comes back and says, well, we had a process for that. How come you didn't follow it? And a lot of business owners are that way. They're sort of high risk, lower follow through, lower fact finding. So it's not that they're like, oh yeah, those rules are for you. I have a different set of rules. It's that they have a different mindset.
And most of the time, they're not their job is not the follow through. Hey,
correct.
We need this outcome.
Correct.
Make it happen.
But it also makes
check in on you.
It also makes them bad at following their own procedures.
Yeah.
Because they are problem solvers, and every problem is unique. Well, actually, not every problem is unique, as we all know. But I know that's the way I look at it, and I have to remember: do we have a process for this? We probably do. And I should probably go find out what this is first. It's become learned after I've absorbed enough punches over the years, to it's become a learned thing as opposed to a native thing for me to really go and look to see what that process is before I'm just going to, what's the best way of doing this? So standardization, you really need that for your employees because most of them are high fact find, high follow through. Mm-hmm. So if you don't give them a path to follow, they're kind of like, well, what do I do?
That's
There's not a high portion of the population that's problems. Like I'm just fantastic at solving problems.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you had an entire company of that, it might be great. You would probably have no standardization, but at least stuff would get done.
Oh yeah.
Might be all different, but most people aren't that way. And so they're wired somewhat differently. And so if you don't give them any process, they kind of don't know exactly what to do. And so you won't be productive.
To really drive this point home as we kind of wrap up standardization, I always like to tell people, if you don't believe this is the way it is, go to a retail store. You will almost always know how they're laid out. Any of the chains.
Yep.
They're all laid out the same way or pretty darn close to it.
Yes.
And their customers like it because they can go find what they want without having to go ask people or whatever. So the clients, the end users want that standardization.
Yep.
And
they do.
From the employee standpoint, you want that too because you know what to expect. You know what to provide. It takes a lot of the complexity out.
Yep. Second point is compartmentalization. Now it's a big word, compartment. So you're making compartments out of things, right? So what are the benefit? Why are you trying to do this? Well, so if you have, say you have 3 offerings, and if you looked at the offerings, there's maybe like 4 steps to each offering, right? That you have to do. If you can take at least one of those, if like one part of it is the same for each, it now makes it easier for your team to deliver because at least one step is the same in each.
Mm-hmm.
That's compartmentalization from an offering standpoint. From an employee standpoint, this goes back to standardization to some degree. Most business owners know if they don't know, they probably should know. What's my average turnover per year? How many employees are likely to leave in any particular year? Because unless that number is 0, there's going to be a new employee doing something that somebody else was doing. So if you don't have any standardization, when a new employee comes in, they're left figuring it out on their own. Remember we just talked about that if you don't give them a process, they kind of don't know what to do?
Yep.
Now we're right back to that. Or if they do figure it out, it's going to take a very long time because you haven't standardized the process or you haven't documented it. If you don't document it, when someone comes in new, you can slide the McDonald's 1,200-page thing over across and say, you have 3 months to learn this, right? And in 3 months, the McDonald's employee is up to speed and functioning well. Well, if your business isn't run that way, when somebody comes in, how long is it going to take them to learn? If they ever do. Maybe they just make up their own thing. Now you have a business that's run by everybody making up their own process. Is that a great way of running your business? Probably not, because you don't know what's going on. If you don't know what's going on, how do you know how to run it? Mm-hmm. You might as well just go on vacation. Maybe I should just let everybody do it. I'll go be on vacation
just to see what happens, right? But so this compartmentalizing, that really helps, it breaks down tasks, right?
It does.
So instead of having to read the entire McDonald's Bible or whatever, I'm sure that's compartmentalized, get into chunks that are learnable, right?
Yes. But I was also driving at as, and this may sound, I don't know, patronizing or something. You're compartmentalizing employees. Mm-hmm. So if you have an employee that does absolutely everything, in a small business, this becomes a little trickier, but as your business grows somewhat, if you never compartmentalize what a person does, then when you have to go to replace that person, it becomes very difficult. You develop an employee that's like irreplaceable. And that's a problem in and of itself. Mm-hmm. So I was really talking about compartmentalizing from your offerings, but also compartmentalizing what you do internally, because that becomes easier to interchange with somebody else, especially if you systematize and standardize your processes. And it, like I said, it might sound weird, like I'm, trying to box people in or something like that. But it also allows that person to become really good at what they're doing. A problem with somebody doing all sorts of things is they sort of do a whole lot of things well, but not excellently. And if you can deliver, a McDonald's is great at an average food, but delivered very consistently. If you can deliver an excellent thing and consistently, you'll have people knocking at your doors all the time.
I have a perfect example for this too. Recently, my family went on a vacation to a breakfast place, and they had maybe 5 items, maybe 6 that they did. And they punched those things out fast, consistently. They were good every time.
Yep.
And that's all everyone was eating. And that's all they were spitting out. So, but there was one person at the pancake station, one person at the sausage station, and that's all they did. And they were extremely efficient.
Yep. McDonald's has a huge marketing budget, right? Mm-hmm. So they can take an average product, deliver it consistently, and they'll have people lined up at their door. A smaller business doesn't have that marketing budget, or maybe they have no marketing budget. So how do they grow their business? Well, if you can deliver an excellent product consistently, eventually people will tell others that, hey, this is not only consistent, but it's great. And that combination will then be your own marketing, your own sales. And if you ever have a sales and marketing team, or you're trying to get Google reviews or something like that, those are you will have raving fans. So standardization, compartmentalization, those 2 things are significant. The next one is automate. So what things can you automate? And that's becoming a big buzzword, especially with AI and all kinds of other things. But it's not always just about that, right? So what things, and automate has like different levels of automation. Is that right? Is that a word? Automation? Yeah,
I'm going to say that's a word.
Okay. Is it's very, it can be very easy for someone to do almost mindlessly. Is like to me, an automized task.
Okay.
Literally, if you can get a piece of machinery to do it, fine. So like with the tax return, when I started, only in my first year, we actually did tax returns manually, like pen and paper. By pen and paper. I was like, oh my God, you're kidding me. The next year, the firm I was working for went to a computerized tax return. And while you really learned how to do a tax return really well when you did it literally manually, it took a very long time to do that because, oh my gosh, you're doing all these calculations manually. So to get to the next, you do these 5 lines and then you have to add those up and get to the next one. Well, all that adding with computers, of course, is done for you. So maybe you learn a little bit less, but man, it's so much faster. So there's some automation. I keep thinking that's not right, but anyway, automation.
There's automation.
Automation. That's probably what it is. Automation. So if you can automate some things in your business, it will help in terms of reducing complexity. It'll help in terms of moving things faster. If a customer can pay on the website as opposed to having to call and give the credit card over the phone or something like that, those are little things that most businesses can automate.
Yeah, and it's an extra step for everyone, right?
Yep. So the next one in reducing complexity is learning to say no. This one
caught me by surprise.
This one's hard for most business owners. They want to say yes to everything because it usually means more revenue. Yes, we can do that for $1,000. Yes, we can do that for $2,500. However, as the business owner in the high accepting of risk and kind of lower on the fact finding and lower on the actually delivering that, they look at this and go, oh yeah, that's doable. Sure. And then their team goes, yeah, we can do that. However, if you're asking us to do that fast and consistently, that's going to be hard to do.
Yeah.
And so business owner needs to listen to their team and say, all right, here's what we're being asked to do. Can we fit this in and do it consistently and quickly and excellently? And then listen and probe a little bit. Mm-hmm. Peel back that onion. Are they really being honest with you about this? Because you don't want a bunch of yes people on this question. So you have to get to the bottom of that. And there are times you're going to have to the answer has got to be no. It's also good to know the areas of your business that you can't do, because then you can say no faster. And saying no faster is better.
Yeah.
Because who wants to go back to their team about every single question? Customers will ask you to do all sorts of customizing things. And that may be great, and it might sound great, and it might even sound reasonable. But the answer is still no, because you can't deliver it in a consistent form. And like I said, McDonald's is average, but consistent. Mm-hmm. And so if you can't even deliver average consistently, you're in trouble. Your customer's going to be pissed off.
Yeah. Well, and actually, I want to add to that. If you have clients coming in, mm-hmm. right, and they are, let's say they came in because they were referred by a friend who was happy with what they got, but they want something that's completely unique, and you don't have the appropriate tools to take care of them, they're not going to get the same product.
Right.
And then even then you bring them in, they are not going to get, they're going to have all this frustration the whole time, the whole process as you're trying to fit this square peg in a round hole kind of thing.
Yes.
So being the right fit is crucial.
Or you may have a team that can do all these things, and doesn't seem like a square peg in a round hole, mm-hmm. but your systems and processes or your equipment it doesn't work for you. So from a process or tool equipment standpoint, it's a little bit out of kilter. Or maybe just your ordering system doesn't have that in there. And it's not going to be you're not going to be able to put that in your ordering system without a significant investment to make that happen. Every little part of the process, anything you add has to be able to work well. And if in any part of that process it won't work well, you've added complexity.
That's right.
And the complexity will kill you, because now you're not going to be able to deliver it consistently, or it's not likely to happen. The last item is assigning a task or a process to one person. Oftentimes, I will see, and even internally, and it drives me nuts, a task to two people. Mm-hmm. Okay, so my question is, who's supposed to do that? Are both people supposed to do that? Is one person supposed to do that?
I've seen the saying, when two people are responsible for something, no one's responsible for something.
Exactly. And it's astonishing to me how often internally and externally, when I talk with clients about this and I go and visit their place, mm-hmm. or I look internally, where we've assigned two people to the same thing. And I'm like, is this because maybe in case someone's on vacation, you assign it to two people, and the one person's supposed to do it, but if the person's on vacation, the other person's supposed to do it? Well, in the end, oftentimes, as you said, nothing happens. And so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but mm-hmm. be very careful about assigning a task or even like a whole project or something to two different people, simply so that you can have some sort of backup. Or I'm not even sure why this happens. The reasoning oftentimes is, we just didn't notice, or something like that. You have to reinforce that this is not an acceptable way of operating. Mm-hmm. Because, your team is doing things, you can't check absolutely everything that they're doing. So you just have to reinforce cultural things, and a cultural thing needs to be one person, one task.
No, it makes perfect sense. Yep. What else is on this list? I feel this is a great list.
No, that really is.
That wraps it up.
That wraps it for me. Yeah, I don't have anything else in the bag.
No, because this is quite a list. I got to ask, what would you say is your favorite? Like one of them where you're like, I really agree with this one.
The first one, systemization, got to be.
Really?
Because from my standpoint, right? So like I've at this point, I have a person for that's our COO is her responsibility is standardization. Mm-hmm. For me personally, it's saying no, and it's at the same time it's liberating, but it's also confining. So like I can't be as creative, but I also know that creativity at some point is going to lead to lack of consistent delivery because you can't do everything.
Right.
And so I personally have to be aware of being the willingness and really I should be saying my first answer should be no, but unless I come up with some reason to get to yes, as opposed to what my gut is yes. Is there some reason I should get to no? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And there's a big difference there, but it's how my mind works. And so for me, I have to think, why should we do this?
Perfect.
Even though I'd love to do it.
Well, thank you very much, Clay.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
You've been listening to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast. If you like what you heard, subscribe and leave a 5-star review. This podcast has been brought to you by Kaizen CPAs Plus Advisors, providing advisory and accounting services to help you grow your business. Learn more at kaizencpas.com or email us at bsb@kaizencpas.com.